What's up, everyone? Hope you all doing well these days. But anyway, welcome back for another episode of the Anime Podcast Show. Well, for today is an anniversary video. So today is July 8th. We are going to be approaching a series that will be trapped for 2 years inside of a video game named Sword Art Online, or known as SAO. Let's dive into the 10 years of this 10-year celebration of this incredible franchise and the series itself. Well, where does the beginning goes in? Well, it usually goes into a development for a story for a manga, but this time it's a light novel. And the creator of Sword Art Online, named Riki Kawahara. He got inspired for this incredible story from, well, a while he was playing video games and RPGs, such as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. He wrote the first volume in 2001 as a competition entry for the 2002 ASCII Media Works Game Novel Prize. But he refined it from submitting it as he had exceeded the page limit. However, he instead published it as a web novel series. Around at that time, he added 3 rather main arcs and several short stories. He got so many ideas and stories he wants to do. He submitted it, but he lost. However, after he published it as a web novel, he got so much positive response. So, in his story, he changed a few key parts that wasn't used from the web novel series, and some parts were added only for the light novels. As of the first volume came out on April 10th, 2009, well, right now we only got 26 volumes already been published during that period of time between 2009 to the present day. The light novels, the manga, and now the anime are popping in, and it's so a fascinating world that Kawahara Sensei had created. As of now, we are getting to a close to this ambitious story for one last biggest arc. I'll talk about that later in the video. Anyway, throughout of the franchise itself, it had so many spin-off series, video games, and also adapting stories from the light novels, etc. Well, what's the arcs for this crazy story? And I can tell you the whole synopsis of every single arc. Let's dive it into it. The way of the story kicks off with the first arc, Aincrad. It's the beginning of this insane madness adventure goes on around November 6th of 2022. The first and highly anticipated virtual reality, or known as VR MMORPG, for a console called the Nerve Gear. It had officially began to let the people buy it at 1 p.m. GST, Japan time. The game's first 10,000 copies were sold out moments before it officially began. However, when the enjoyment had lasted, some of the players noticed that the logout button was not there anymore. And that means no one leaves the game. All entirety throughout the beginning of an end was introducing of the creator of SAO game, Akihiko Kaiba. He announced that all players has to find their own way to beat the game, but if that doesn't happen, all players from the real world to remove their nerve gear or disconnect it from a power source, etc. Everyone's brains will be fried, and that means it turns into a death game and survive the journeys that will be awakening in one of 1,000 beta testers, and one of them named Kirito, or known as aka Black Swordsman. 2 years later, in the year of 2024, Kirito had become a pro gamer as level 96, and already met his future girlfriend as Lightning Flash Asuna, and a guild that she joined known as Knights of the Blood Oath. That would be a turnaround when they officially became a couple and getting married in Aincrad. Kirito and Asuna are spending their newlywed life before they get interrupted by Heathcliff. The guild had discovered to find the 75th boss, and at the end of the battle, less than an hour of celebrations, it turns out that the true identity of the immortal Heathcliff is to be the creator of SAO, Akihiko Kaiba. Everyone was surprised and shocked, so no one can beat him. And when he about to attack Kirito for one final blow. However, it was redirected onto Asuna, who shielded Kirito. He attacked Asuna and Kirito lost the girl he loved. After he lost her, Kirito loses his mind and goes to God mode and killed Heathcliff. And on November 7th, 2024, Kirito had finally beat the final boss and the creator of SAO. But back in the real world, Kirito and everyone else who were unconscious had woken up except Asuna. She hadn't woken up yet, until we moved to the next story. After we came from the ambitious and heavy arc of character development turned into saving your girl or weirdest arc ever made. 2 months after the events of SAO, the major of 6,147 surviving players had been logged out and successfully, but the 300 of them, including Asuna, had not been woken up. Kazuto Kitagaya, who had acquired Asuna's location from the representative of the SAO Countermeasures Division, in exchange for information about the incident, constantly visit her at the hospital. Well, the hospital that Asuna is in. In one of Kirito's visits, he met Asuna's father and brought a man named Sugo into the room. When Asuna's father left the room, Sugo had a conversation revealing that he was going to marry Asuna by force. While she was unable to do anything against this decision, well, matters worse that the next day that Kazuto had received an email from Agil, from one of his new friends from the SEO game, which someone took a photo that is Asuna trapped in a birdcage. Say what? A birdcage? What the hell? Where the events occur around January of 2025, where our boy Kirito had to decide that he will have to go to Elfheim Online, or known as ALL, to save Asuna in the World Tree. And when Kirito arrived, he ran into until revealed that Leafa is Sugaha, his cousin. He had finally learned that he needs a plan of how he save Asuna and find the World Tree. Then we see that the game master of the World Tree, Oberon, the Fairy King, has revealed to Asuna that he controlled the minds of 300 players from SAO, and he told to Asuna that Oberon is Sugo, that sneaky son of a bitch. Asuna had hopes that Kirito would save her soon. When they'd had a plan where they are flying to their route is Central Aron. That's where the World Tree has located. It's the capital of Alfheim. When Kirito and Leafa had finally got to their destination and bids to their farewell, Kirito pushes his limits to the top of the World Tree and had finally reunited with Asuna until Oberon interfered their reunion and be confronted by the final boss that Kirito had to face this moment. And wasn't learned from his last battle with Heathcliff. And Kirito stand his ground, got up to face Oberon, and challenges him to a fight, and he beat him. However, Sugo is still around and heading to the hospital, but Kirito stopped him as Asuna was waiting. Back in the real world, Kirito and Asuna have finally reunited for real this time. 4 weeks later, all the SEO players had attended a special school and meet their new friends from the game, and now they become friends in real life, and catches up with Silica, Liz, Agil, Klein, and that means the crew had formed. We'll see the gang again very soon. To where all it starts in the same year of 2025, months after the events of the ALO incident, life is back to normal and everyone is spending time and getting to know each other and getting along. Now the seed is fully running now. Let's move to GGO, or known as Gun Gale Online. They had a tournament that takes place in Gun Gale, but a mysterious incident is ready to occur, that an unmasked person who called himself Death Gun. Kirito has asked by the member of the VR Crimes Division, Kikuoka. Kikuoka asked Kirito to investigate and convert his character to GGO with the upcoming BOB tournament to draw the attention of this mysterious Death Gun. As he arrived to Gun Gale, Kirito met a girl as a badass sniper. Her name is Sinon. As of the tournament is about to begin, Deathgun has already made a move who will be his next target, and that would be Sinon. It has been revealed that Deathgun is a member of Laughing Coffin from SAO. Throughout of the tournament, Sinon realized that she got Kirito's back, so they'd got one chance to beat Deathgun. When they had finally interact with each other, the final battle draws in, and they had finally beat Deathgun, and that would be it. No, don't think so. Well, cause not only one Deathgun is out there, but two more Deathguns are out there. And one of them is a friend of Sinon, or Shino Asura, where Kazuto and Shino sees Kikuoka to report about the Deathgun incident. And then both of them meets up with Asuna and Liz at Aegyo's cafe. It was revealed that Kazuto told Asuna and Liz about Shino's past and met up with a former employee from the post office during the robbery years ago, and she was pregnant at the time, and now she has a 4-year-old daughter. Shino finally finds closure in the lives that she saved, shattered tears of happiness. Before we go to the biggest arc, we have to move to one of the saddest stories. And yes, I have to brought it up. Well, because that's the part of the anime, so. But let's see how we can go to this. Well, the beginning of the new year of 2026, Liz tells Asuna about a player known as Zekken, or Absolute Sword, who are challenging players on the 24th floor. As a reward, is offering an 11-hit combo. All 30 players, including Liz, Leafa, and of course Kirito, were defeated. For surprising enough, it got Asuna's attention, so she decided to challenge the player. As it turns out, Asuna thought it was a guy, but Zekken is actually a girl. Her name is Yuki. As of Asuna's choice, she had managed to force Yuki to use her own powerful original sword skill, but still defeated. However, Yuki asked Asuna's help with her party, Sleepy Nights. The guild told Asuna that they were looking for a player to fill in the last remaining slot in their party, and help them defeat the next floor boss to have their names sketched on the Monument of Swordsmen in order to leave a memory of their existence in the world, which they found to be the most beautiful of the ones they had visited before the guild disbanded. The reason is, it's Yuki's condition. Yuki suffered from AIDS, and Yuki and Asuna had spent time together for her final days until the day it happened for Asuna and Yuki's friends and other ALL players arrived to see her final moments, and she fulfilled Yuki's wish for all of her loved ones to come to see her before she passed. Weeks goes by. Kazuto and Asuna joined their friends for a photo at the picnic after discussing how the virtual world has benefited them in the real world. Their journey had already begun. To compare from the virtual world had benefit to the real world, as we agree with the Agma. Before we head into the third season, Alicization, so we had gotten an original story for SAO named Ordinal Scale. It sets between the events of Season 2 and Season 3. It centers around this new, not a VR MMORPG, but known as AR MMORPG, titled Ordinal Scale. A brand new game that assigns each player's rank in ordinal number ranking system by defeating monsters. Also, as long as you can use it, also you can use battles with different players, as using the atmosphere. As they thought Ordinal Scale was going to be fun, until it gets worse, where Klein goes missing and it got a bit weird. So Kazuto is investigating what's going on, and they didn't know most of the bosses were from the old Ironclad until the evening of April 26th of 2026. It got much worse for the gang, where Asuna, Liz, and Silica, they fought the boss from floor 12, but it turns out something goes wrong. That Pina, Silica's pet, suddenly transformed into the boss from floor 91. No one ever got to that part of the game. But where the dragon is ready to attack Silica, Asuna shielded her. It attacked Asuna's, deleting all of her hit points and causing her to collapse the moment a yellow spear was launched from her Agma. And that means it would lose all your memories during the 2 years when you're stuck inside of SAO. I think that's what happened to Asuna. So now Kazuto is about to investigate what's going to be happening throughout of this entire film. But let me tell you more about it. The next day, Kazuto takes Asuna to the hospital to have her checked out. Well, the result is that Asuna is losing her memories from SAO during the 2 years of getting to know each other and met up, and also getting to know about everyone that she knows. And he's trying his best to get her memories back. So Kirito risking his life to battle these ordinal scale battles, going one place to the next. Throughout of the story that we meet this brand new character named Iji. He's one of Dr. Shigemura's students that held an institute of technology that discovers that Shigemura has created the Agma. The reason why that Shigemura created the Agma because he wanted to revive his daughter Yuna. That she died because, of course, she is one of the players from Sword Art Online. And also, it was the day of the launch and the day of the death game had started. And Shigemura regret what he did, and he should have sued them, but like I said, he felt regret that he should have done something with that, and that is why that Shigemura created the Agma. So days later, all of the ordinal scale players gathered at the Tokyo National Stadium for Yuna's live concert. In the lower levels of the stadium, Kirito duels Iji to regain Asuna's memories. Iji reveals that Shigemura is going to hostage all players to steal their memories from SAO in an attempt to reconstruct his lost daughter's soul and resurrect her as an AI. When Kirito arrived, the chaos had begun, and the monsters were coming to attack. Asuna and the others, Yuna completely as an AI, well, she helped them out, and she tells them about where they can go, but they have to go to Ruby Palace in the old Ironclad. So Kirito and the others, except Asuna, they all went there to defeat the true level 100 boss. So they fully dived into the old Ironclad, then Asuna came to help Kirito and the others, and finally, the end game we got to see Yui bringing Lifa, Klein, and Egil, and everyone else from the ALL and GGO as a reinforcements, wearing their iconic outfits from SAO, including Sinon's GGO's outfit, and all of them were ready to fight the final boss. Kirito, Asuna, Sinon, they're all in the action, and that was a hell of a crazy scene we ever got to see in an animation form. And in Asuna, she finally used the skill that was used by Yuki, the 11th hit combo. After the battle was over, the gang got the message from the creator of SAO, Akihiko Kaiba, congratulate them on they beat the boss, and gives Kirito a powerful sword as a reward. And a virtual projection of Kirito is now having become a top-ranked player of ordinal scale. Use the sword to wipe away all monsters in the stadium, and everyone is back to normal and Kirito saved the day again. In aftermath of the battle, Yuna revealed that the data of her body was based on the resources of the SAO's final boss, whose saved data was reset upon its defeat, meaning that she would have to say farewell to them, and Asuna got her memories back, and the gang is back for normal this time. No more crazy death issues. Oh wait, it's gonna happen again months later to come. As we thought that AI was better than VR, well, you're wrong. Now we are fully diving in back to the standard part of the story. After the ordinal scale incident, by June of 2026, Kazuto was offered a job at a private enterprise named Wrath by Kikuoka, the VR Crimes Division member who Kazuto had been cooperating with ever since the end of the SAO incident. Kazuto is testing out an experiment full dive machine called the Soul Translator, or STL. So Kirito have been working for Wrath for numerous weeks, and he doesn't know what's been happening during the full dive. His memories is all blank due to the security measures that specialize a virtual world known as the Underworld, where time flows 1,000 times faster than the real world due to Flocklight. Wrath brought Kazuto into the world with his memories restricted to test why the restrictions of the Underworld were unable to break any laws. Kazuto lived that world for 11 years inside and met two new friends, Yujio and Alice, until they break one of the rules of the Taboo Index. But when Kazuto is back from the real world, he got tears because they lost Alice. However, how Kazuto can remember what happened during the full dive? As Kazuto is back with the gang, he can hang out with them in his free time. They dived in to GGO for practice for the upcoming BBO tournament. Sinon asked Asuna and Kirito about that. So they met up at Aegis Cafe and talked about the BBO tournament. As Kirito and Sinon were waiting for Asuna, she asked Kirito how he's been doing. As Asuna arrived, Kirito explained about Wrath, Soul Translator, or maybe about the Flocklight. As they are gone to their separate ways, Asuna and Kirito were having a conversation about if Asuna can join with Kazuto going to America traveling to Wrath. They both agreed to go together one day. However, they got interrupted as after the events of the Phantom Bullet arc, one of the three members of Death Gun named Johnny Black, Kazuto attempted to counterattack with his umbrella. However, he was injected with the drug of the sewage during the scuffle, just as his umbrella pierced the man's leg, causing the boy to collapse due to cardiac arrest. As of what happened, Kirito wakes up inside of the Underworld with his real-world memories this time. He thought that he is diving into a game, but he's not. He sees a boy from his age, and his name is Yujio. Yujio and Kirito getting to know each other and help each other out. And sees what's going on. And they don't know what's happening with each other. And they're on their way to Central Cathedral to find this girl named Alice. But how did Kirito remembers her? Because he's the same person we know from the show's beginnings episode. Well, that's what it is. So they're gonna start their journey from scratch and continued all the way to the south, to the village of where she grew up, and also they're gonna enroll into Sword Mystery Academy, taking their next step, sharing their goals, becoming Integrity Knights to continue on their search for Alice. But as of their training, after about 2 years, they got their maids of their own, and they got their own rivals and get jealous of them. And I can't say more about the embarrassing task that they have to go through. And they break the taboo index, and they got arrested by Alice, who is now Integrity Knight, and finally found her. And that's not the same Alice that Yujio and Kirito knew from their childhood. They don't know what's gonna happen. Meaning, we meet up with brand new characters inside of the cathedral, such as the cardinal that she's gonna warn Kirito that the creatures of the Dark Territory are gonna invade the human empire, and Broccoli, he is a father, kind of a father figure, but he's an uncle figure for Alice. Meeting with Alice, it's such a great reunion for the both of them. And also, she doesn't remember who the hell they are and how they know her. And so they both fought together, and that's a huge damage because Kirito and Alice are dangling along the wall outside the cathedral, and they both on trace. So Kirito tells the truth about the Underworld to Alice until the seal of the right eye make her eye to explode, and she'd pass out. And Kirito are both in the floor 95. They'd found Yujio and Kirito is fighting him when Yu-Gi-Oh's mind was snapped out. So Kirito, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Alice were about to face Quinella as a final boss at the floor 100 in the cathedral. But in the end, Yu-Gi-Oh is dying. And Alice is unconscious, so Kirito is the only survivor in the group that he can beat her, but he couldn't. So he turned into God mode, and Kirito lost the duel as he lost his right arm. And she tells Kirito that she's exiting out the underworld, but this clown, this lookalike clown, so they both catches on fire and killing them both. Yu-Gi-Oh says goodbye to Kirito and dies in front of him. Kirito walks to the system console to connecting to the real world when the ocean turtle is attacked. Kikuoka tells Kirito to find Alice, but it tells Kikuoka, says she's already with them and takes her to the world's end altar, but Kirito doesn't know where it is. But before Kirito cuts out, he's gonna be unconscious and loses his Fluctlight from the attackers shutting down the power at Wrath. Well, it's going to be continued. But let me go back to what happened in the real world. However, how is Asuna and the others were up to after what happened to Kirito? Well, he suffered a brain damage, and he was hospitalized. But for the next few days, he's going to one hospital to the next for his care. But they took Kirito somewhere else. As of Yui's help, Asuna had traced Kirito is located by a mega float known as Ocean Turtle is Wrath. Asuna had a help from a former member and former lover of Akihiko Kaiba named Rinko Koshiro, where she discovered that Kazuto had been abducted by Kikuoka and Higa. In order to use the device, simulated the boy's recovery, his Fluctlight. Kikuoka explains to Asuna and Rinko about Project Alicization and helping out Kirito's Fluctlight to restore it. In the aftermath of the battle at the cathedral, as countless Kirito lost Yu-Gi-Oh, lost his arm, and his Fluctlight is damaged. It's damaged by the power surge caused by the attack on the Ocean Turtle. During that period, Alice and her younger sister had been taking care of Kirito since then. However, it was hired by the US government had begun to raid to order to claim to use Alice for the US purpose. While it was hired by the US government, they ask what they want for Project Alicization. So they ask two vessels as Gabriel and Fasago. Gabriel is a murderist who is framed as a winner for the first BOB tournament in the GGO. And Fasago, he's an SAO survivor and the founder of Laughing Coffin and taking over of the Ocean Turtle. As inside of Wrath, Rinko, Asuna, and Kikuoka and their allies race against time to save Alice from the evil hands of Gabriel and Fasago. Of how they'd go to the underworld, so Gabriel and Fasago goes to the underworld as logging into using accounts of the Dark Territory characters. The final load test between Human Empire and Dark Territory had begun. It's a war going at large. The two armies is fierce and brutal, with many losing their lives, including many Integrity Knights and members of the Dark Territory's Council of 10. As they begun the war, we need some reinforcements. We know who it is. Asuna. She's logging into an account server inside of the underworld as Creation Goddess Stacia, and something new is going on. It got things out of hand, cause in the underworld is getting worse. Yui tells everyone what's going on. So the whole gang convert their characters to the underworld and save Asuna, Kirito, and Alice. However, Leafa and Sinon are at Roppongi to dive it there. With the arrival of the American players diving into the underworld and begin, they think it's a game. However, a bright light in the sky reveals herself, Sinon, as Solace, the sun goddess, and reunited with Asuna, and sees Kirito in a bad state, but in the other side, Leafa arrives as Earth Goddess Terraria. As Asuna joins the fight and sees another bright light in the sky appears, revealed to be Klein in his ALL avatar, as so far so many allies comes in. Meets up with Liz, Agil, Silica, the Sleeping Knights, etc. Arrives to assist Asuna. Meanwhile, at the Ocean Turtle, Hyuga came up of how he can restore Kirito's Floodlight with the help from his friends, but he has to go to the main control room. Back in the underworld, Sinon follows Gabriel and she found Alice and felt regret and ranted about what happened to Broccoli. However, Sinon has to keep an eye on Alice and get her safe, and getting her to the World's End altar. To the war continues, Fasago leading massive army of adding Korean and Chinese players logging into the underworld, and they kept fighting until Fasago wants the Japanese players to surrender to protect residents, so himself as POH, or known as Prince of Hell, to Asuna. He then asks where Black Swordsman. However, Kirito is still unconscious in a bad shape. When Fasago ready to attack, Iji and Yuna arrives to help him. Iji fights Fasago to avenge his friends from SAO, but he is defeated and Yuna takes him away. And Fasago commanded to slaughter everyone who stepped in his way. They got nothing else to do about what they want to do to get Kirito back to his old self. As inside, Kirito has haunted by his own memories, while threatens to kill every single Japanese players until he's awakened. He's ready to fight after a long, brutal battle, and Fasago lost. He promised to keep coming back until he kills everyone, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't have a chance to trap his own mind inside of the underworld. As of time moving fast, everyone has to leave about 15 minutes before they will be stuck inside of the underworld for over 200 years would be passed. As a fair time pass, Alice is very safe to the world's end. Kirito thought that he's going to be all by himself, but no. But not for long, as Asuna will be stayed with him forever. Weeks goes by, Rinka Kushida reveals Alice to the real world, her floodlight placed inside of an android's body made in her virtual body's likeness. But at the same time, Kirito and Asuna are successful recovered from the underworld after their minds were trapped for over 200 years. Kirito said, "Erased our memories." What do we know about this latest story? As of this comes out, the story isn't done. As of you don't know, or know, that we're in the final arc of the SAO story, or as Unity Ring. So what's this arc is about anyway? This arc takes place after the events of the Alicization. Kirito, Asuna, and Alice takes on the survival MMO massively multiplayer online named Unity Ring. 3 of them were suddenly dragged into a mysterious game around that time. The 3 has their accounts converted to this mysterious VR MMO game. Not only that, Sinon, Lifa, and the others converted as they're inside of the game. They had stumbled an unknown person. How Kirito and the others survived this multiplayer game? Well, to get off my chest, that is my long point of view of this SAO storyline of few different arcs, from all the way from Aincrad to the final arc of this incredible story called Unity Ring. Now, let's talk about the anime itself. After the popularity of commercially success on the light novels, having been sold for 26 million copies worldwide, including great reviews mainly on the arcs, so A1 Pictures were the perfect studio to produce and animated it with Aniplex at the time. They had only access to adapt from all the way to the 8th volume, from the Aincrad to the later arcs of the story. And at the same time, the 9th volume is about to release. When the time of the release of the anime on July 7th, Japan time, and streamed it around the world, for the first season had received mixed to positive reviews for beautiful animation, introducing these incredible characters, best, great, worst arcs with incredibly world you be diving in. How does localizing a show like SAO translate it into English? In 2012, Aniplex of America has announced that they had the license to dub Sword Art Online. And fans had some thoughts of which studio who's gonna dub it. Well, the options were Studiopolis, NYV Post, or Funimation. But not a familiar production studio at the time was known as Established Studio. It was Bang Zoom Entertainment. At the time, they known their hits as Rurouni Kenshin, Da 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 Da, Madoka Magica, Fate Zero, and Blue Exorcist. So Aniplex chose Bang Zoom Entertainment to dub it, and we've never expected about their dub cast. And in 2013, a year later, the dub was premiered on Adult Swim's Toonami. After the broadcast, it became mostly positive from the dub fandom. So fans were expected at the end of the first season for announcement for season 2. But not for long from Japan. They did an end of the year special titled Sword Art Online or SAO Extra Edition as a recap special from the events of Aincrad and Alfheim, including new footage where the characters were up to during the time of before the events of season 2. After the broadcast, they announced for season 2, then announcing for their movie Ordinal Scale, then Alicization, then War of Underworld, and lastly for 2 progressive movies. As we know that the final arc has been not announced yet for the anime, but it's going to be a long time wait. But I still cannot wait for what they're going to do with it. And as we all celebrate 10 years of this momentum, incredible franchise. And that is the end of this podcast episode. Thanks for listening and watching this incredible special anniversary video. Let's keep support this incredible franchise. And let's keep it for the next 10 more years. Well, see you next time. Peace and Link start.